Few people recognize the subtle illusion that keeps so many trapped, the belief that in order to move forward, you must be seen. But true progress doesn't need witnesses, it needs conviction. When you speak too much about what hasn't yet been built, you drain energy that should be fueling the foundation. The Bible already warned us in Matthew 6:6, "Go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father, who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." That's not just a religious instruction, it's a mental code. An invisible architecture for those who understand that manifestation doesn't begin on the stage, but in the inner sanctuary. In the space where faith meets discipline and silence becomes the seed. It's like opening a vault before placing the gold inside. The mind interprets the act of speaking as relief, as if the task were already complete, but it's not. And once you feel rewarded too early, discipline fades, urgency weakens, and focus dissolves. Napoleon Hill observed this in the background of every great empire. Those who achieved something extraordinary did so through invisible rituals, habits no one saw, hours no one counted, discipline no one celebrated. Silent construction isn't a sacrifice, it's a consecration, a pact with what doesn't yet exist, but already pulses inside you. And when that pact is real, it doesn't need to be announced, it must be protected. This is where Hill's insights align powerfully with timeless spiritual teachings. Throughout this reflection, you'll discover why those who build in the dark harvest without asking permission. You'll learn how to guard your energy, silence external noise, and turn quiet execution into your greatest source of power. Because when the invisible aligns with the right intention, the visible bends in your favor. There's an addiction that drains more energy than any task, the addiction to being validated. When you share your dreams too early, what you're really doing is asking for permission to believe in them. If the feedback is flat, you lose motivation. If it's skeptical, you doubt yourself. If it's too enthusiastic, you get complacent. In every case, your power slips away. Your focus leaves the internal compass and gets trapped in someone else's eyes. That hunger for acceptance turns goals into performances. You start rehearsing your path instead of walking it. You post intentions, talk through plans, rehearse success, but you don't move. The applause becomes the reward. Not progress, but praise. And the moment you depend on reactions to stay consistent, your power belongs to the audience. You're no longer building from within. You're adjusting to be understood. That's the trap. The one who truly transforms doesn't need to be understood. They need to be loyal to their decision. Loyalty to your path is worth more than popularity. That's why those who win in silence often look cold, but they're not cold. They're focused. The path isn't democratic. It doesn't need to be voted on. It needs to be walked. Results, when they come, explain everything that words never could. There's a force that begins to shift when you write what you believe. It's not just expression. It's a statement to your subconscious, a ritual, a spark of alignment. Write in the comments, "My silence is already working for me." If something deep within you resonated with this message, let that energy take shape in a few quiet words. Let that sentence be a soft declaration of the version of you that's awakening. Silence is not stillness, it's alignment. It's where everything begins, before the world ever sees a thing. When you act without announcing, you enter a rare frequency, the builder's state. Most people want to be seen. They crave recognition before they've built a foundation. But the few who understand this, they protect their vision like fire in the dark. They're not avoiding the world, they're honoring the process. Because when movement begins in silence, it takes root. There's a clarity that only comes when the noise stops. And that noise isn't just external. It lives in the mind that over-explains, overshares, overcompensates. What sounds like communication is often distraction. The ego loves to be applauded for plans it hasn't fulfilled, but the silent builder refuses that trade. They don't speak for attention, they act for alignment. And that act, repeated quietly, is what reshapes identity. Think about a seed breaking the soil, alone, unseen. That moment in the dark is not weakness, it's incubation. The same goes for your habits, your focus, your rituals. What no one sees shapes everything. Every repetition without applause is a declaration to yourself. I'm becoming. I'm focused. I don't need to be seen. I need to be rooted. Inside that space, your discipline becomes your identity, not a task, a nature. You don't need to convince yourself anymore. You are. The voice that used to doubt now follows, because repetition built a new rhythm. Silence built structure, and structure, built in solitude, cannot be shaken in noise. This is the builder's code. When the world asks for explanations, you offer progress, quietly, steadily, unshakably. That's the power of someone who has become the very thing they once tried to explain. There comes a moment when the world no longer needs to hear what you're planning. It just needs to see what you've done. And that moment only arrives if you've stayed quiet long enough to build. Real impact doesn't come from announcements. It comes from presence. Presence that was forged in silence, day after day. When results appear, no one asks for your intentions. The work speaks, and it never stutters. There is a kind of respect that can't be requested. It's earned by those who disappear to build. When they return, they don't bring promises. They bring reality. No applause needed, no introduction necessary, just evidence. Solid, undeniable, unshakable. And that evidence wasn't made in a rush. It was built brick by brick, while the world wasn't looking. Empire builders don't waste time convincing anyone. They're too busy laying foundations, solving problems, refining their vision. While others are explaining, they're executing. And when they finally emerge, there's no debate. The silence gave their results weight. And weight commands respect without saying a word. It's easy to announce ideas, hard to sustain action, easy to be celebrated for plans, hard to stay consistent when no one's watching. But those who fall in love with private progress always arrive different. They carry something deeper. They don't chase validation. They embody transformation. And when that transformation is revealed, it's unstoppable. Not because you shouted it, but because it now breathes on its own. The silence becomes sound, and the sound is undeniable. Not every idea is meant to be shared, at least not right away. The most powerful visions are the most fragile at the beginning. Like a small flame, they need oxygen, but they can't handle strong winds. When you speak too soon, you expose your vision to eyes that don't see what you see. And that exposure, even when well-intentioned, can plant seeds of doubt. Doubt that grows silently until the fire you lit starts to flicker. So many dreams have died because they were shown before they were strong. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they were revealed to people who couldn't carry them. Critics, skeptics, or even just silence, all of them can shift your focus from belief to hesitation. You lose momentum not because of failure, but because of premature exposure. That's why the silent builder protects the vision. It's not secrecy, it's strategy. You don't owe the world explanations for something still under construction. Those who build with real intent know time will do the explaining, and when the time comes, your vision will be so rooted, so refined, so undeniable, that no voice can shake it. Until then, let it live inside you, quiet, clear, untouchable. Visions don't grow from exposure, they grow from devotion. They need rituals, focus, repetition. They need your choice to protect what hasn't bloomed yet. Not because it's weak, but because it's becoming. Some things are too valuable to be handled by hands that don't understand. The moment you explain too much, you hand over your power. And each time you justify your vision, what you're really doing is asking for permission to pursue it. But true purpose doesn't need permission, it needs conviction. When you start needing others to understand, you slowly begin editing your path to fit their lens. And in that compromise, your fire dims. We were raised to give explanations for everything. Why we want more, why we change direction, why we dare to dream big. But real builders don't explain, they act. They trust their clarity more than anyone else's confusion. And that trust doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from alignment, the kind that doesn't argue, it simply moves. Yes, people will question you. That's part of the path. The world isn't used to those who walk without needing approval. Your silence will unsettle some because it reflects what they haven't found in themselves. But unsettling others is not your responsibility. Protecting your path is. There's wisdom in withholding. There's strength in stillness. When you stop trying to be understood, you become unshakable. You know what you're building, you know what it costs. You don't need to defend it, you need to deliver it. So when the questions come, and they will, don't shrink. Don't explain, just continue. Execution is the answer. Silence is the armor. Conviction is the compass. That's the language of the few who actually finish what they started. There comes a moment when silence is no longer a tool. It becomes who you are. You stop needing to be seen because you've already chosen to be rooted. You stop announcing because you've already decided. Your path no longer depends on the noise. It deepens in its own rhythm. You act not for validation but from alignment, and that's the shift from intention to embodiment. When your actions become your identity, nothing needs to be said. You don't wake up to prove anything. You wake up to honor what you've already declared inside yourself. You repeat, not to be praised, but to be precise. Each day, you reinforce the structure. Each choice becomes a thread in the fabric of who you're becoming. And that fabric can't be torn by doubt. The more you walk in silence, the more power you gather. Not the loud kind, the deep kind. The kind that doesn't shake when things go quiet. Because you've learned that discipline is louder than words, that movement is more sacred than approval, that your presence, when aligned, is enough. You are no longer guided by fear, you are moved by purpose. And when purpose leads, silence walks ahead of you like a shield. The right people feel it, the wrong ones fade, the world adjusts. If something inside you shifted during this journey, subscribe now and watch the next video appearing on your screen. There you'll dive even deeper into the invisible architecture of success and unlock the codes that shape extraordinary lives. You've already begun. Now, keep going.